Imagine the rain starts just after sunset. Not for an hour, not for one miserable afternoon. It keeps falling through the night, through the next day, through another cold night. And by the time the seventh morning arrives, the world outside your shelter has become something your ancestors would barely recognize. You have no grocery store, no dry room waiting for you, no weather app telling you when the storm will end. Your food is somewhere beyond the hills. Your hunting route is disappearing under mud. And every step across wet, uneven ground carries a risk you cannot afford. For an ancient human, a week of rain was not a bad vacation from the outdoors. It was a test of everything. Because when the rain came, survival did not simply stop. It moved indoors. The first problem was staying alive long enough to see the sky clear again. Cold could drain body heat rapidly from a wet body. Floodwater could invade low shelters. And predators looking for refuge from the same storm could end up sharing the limited dry spaces with humans. So imagine sitting inside a cave while the rain pounds against the entrance. You cannot hunt. You cannot simply walk outside and follow tracks, because the water is washing them away. The ground is slippery. The river is rising. And then you look at the one thing keeping your entire group alive. The fire. That tiny orange glow is no longer just a source of warmth. It is light. It is protection. It helps prepare food. It creates a place where people can work and communicate. If it dies, the consequences could be enormous. And that changes the question completely. The real question is not, what did ancient humans do when it rained? It is, what could humans accomplish when the weather forced them to stop moving? That is where this story gets surprising. Evidence of controlled fire goes back hundreds of thousands of years, including discoveries associated with Qasim Cave in Israel and Wonderwork Cave in South Africa. But keeping a fire alive and creating one from nothing were different challenges. Some people carried embers, protecting them in materials that could keep them smoldering for hours. Thousands of years later, Tatsi the Iceman was found with a fire, making kit containing tinder fungus, flint, iron pyrite, and additional tinder. Think about what that means. Fire was important enough that people carried the ability to make it with them. So during a long storm, someone may have had a job that sounds almost ridiculously simple to us: keep the fire alive, move it deeper into shelter, protect it from moisture, feed it carefully, find wood that is still dry beneath the outer wet layer. Use whatever natural materials can catch and hold a flame for hours, perhaps longer. The most important task in the shelter could be watching a fire that we might casually start today with a lighter. But once the fire was secure, another problem appeared. You have time. A lot of it. And humans have never been especially good at leaving time empty. Archaeological sites provide clues about what happened inside these shelters. Caves contain stone tools at different stages of production, surrounded by the flakes produced during manufacturing. These concentrations suggest that people were sitting in protected spaces, working by firelight. And that matters because a storm that prevents hunting can create something unexpectedly valuable: uninterrupted time. You can sharpen a tool, repair clothing, prepare materials, make something you will need tomorrow. At Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found evidence of ochre processing dating back roughly 100,000 years, including shells used as containers and tools associated with processing pigment. That is not simply someone killing time. That is someone producing something deliberately. And then the evidence becomes even more revealing. Bone needles appear in the archaeological record tens of thousands of years ago. These are tiny, precise objects. They require patience and concentration. You do not make something that delicate while sprinting after prey or escaping a predator. You make it when you can sit still. You make it when you have time. And a week of rain could give you plenty of it. The same logic may help explain another technology that is easy to overlook because it seems so ordinary today. String. At archaeological sites, evidence points to ancient humans working with plant fibers and developing ways to twist them into strong cords and rope. A specialized tool from Holfell's cave, carved from mammoth ivory, appears to have been designed for twisting fibers. Rope sounds simple, but once you can make strong cordage, your possibilities multiply. You can bind materials together, strengthen shelters, attach tools to handles, create traps, secure objects, build things that would otherwise fall apart. One small invention can quietly transform an entire way of life. And perhaps that is the biggest misunderstanding about ancient humans. We imagine them as people constantly running, hunting, fighting, and escaping danger. But survival also required sitting down, preparing, repairing, teaching, making, thinking. The storm did not necessarily create those abilities. It created the conditions in which those abilities could be used. Because creativity does not always begin with comfort. Sometimes it begins with restriction. When the outside world becomes impossible to enter, the human mind turns toward the small world inside: materials, memories, problems, possibilities, and the people sitting beside you together. And once you understand that, the cave stops looking like a place where humans were simply hiding from the weather. It starts looking like a workshop, a classroom, a kitchen, a meeting place, and eventually, something even more remarkable. A place where humans could create things that had nothing to do with surviving the next few hours. That is when the story of rain becomes a story about something much bigger than weather. Because once humans had fire, shelter, tools, and time, there was one thing left to ask. What happens when people stop merely surviving and start creating? And that is where the rain becomes something more than an obstacle. Deep inside caves, humans eventually left evidence that they were doing more than repairing tools. They were making art. Paintings of horses, lions, rhinos, bears, and other animals appear deep inside caves such as Chauvet and Lascaux. Some were created in places so far from the entrance that reaching them required moving through narrow, completely dark passages. Someone carried light into that darkness. Someone prepared pigments. Someone looked at the wall and decided to create. We cannot prove those paintings were made specifically because it was raining outside, but the broader pattern is difficult to ignore. When people were forced to spend long periods together in sheltered spaces, they had something incredibly valuable: time to observe, practice, teach, remember, and imagine. And around the fire, something else could happen. People could talk. They could teach children where water was found, which plants were safe, how to track animals, and where useful stone could be collected. They could repeat stories until information became memory. So perhaps the greatest thing ancient humans did during a week of rain was not simply survive it. They used the forced pause to prepare for the world beyond it. When the clouds finally broke, they walked back outside, not empty, handed, but better equipped than before. The storm had stopped, but the work it inspired continued.